Hello, and welcome to Appleton Engaged. I'm your host, Timber Smith, Special Assistant to the Mayor for Community, Culture, and Belonging.
And I'm Andy Anam, the Communications Director for the city.
And Appleton Engaged is the podcast that explores the many people, organizations, and resources that make our community a great place to live, work, and play. So whether you're a longtime resident or just getting to know Appleton, join us as we learn more about our community together.
Today we are back with another City of Appleton special episode, and today's episode is about something that touches everybody's life, the City of Appleton Comprehensive Plan.
That's right. We don't just do things willy-nilly around here. We actually make plans for how to make the city better for the future. But we've got great guests this week to help tell us about this comprehensive plan and the things that go into it. So this week's guests are Lindsey Smith, Principal Planner for the City of Appleton, and Monk Elmer, member of the advisory group for the comprehensive plan. Hello, Lindsey. Hey, Monk. How is it going?
Good.
Awesome. Well, it is awesome to have you here today. Can you please tell us a little something about yourself and your association with Appleton and the surrounding Fox Cities region? Lindsey, let's start with you.
Yeah, so thank you for having me today. Pleasure to be here. So I have been in planning and development in local government for about the past 10 years. So have lived in Wisconsin my whole life. Grew up in the Oshkosh area, but in 2021 moved to the Fox Cities for a job opportunity in the Fox Cities, and I have been with the City of Appleton the past 2 years. So when joining the City of Appleton, my position was specialized in long-range planning, and I was very excited about jumping in and diving into long-range planning for the city in a variety of facets.
Yeah, and I'm Monk Elmer, a family physician with Theta Care. I immigrated here from Iowa with my wife back in 1986, did my family medicine training, lived in the City of Appleton for the first 5 years, and then moved to the Kimberly area for my medical practice. I still have an Appleton mailing address. I'm not sure how that works, but that's what I have. So I have that connection as well.
We're not quite sure how that works either.
And so that's part of my connectivity to the work that the city's doing. And again, it's an awesome work plan that they've created for the city. In addition to that, I have my hat on, I would say, as a healthcare provider and understanding the importance of housing as a healthcare issue. And then from my own faith perspective, I'm a member of the First Congregational Church, and we put together a faith-based summit that brought together faith-based communities to look at the housing issues from multiple angles. So I think those two things sort of coalesced and brought me to the comprehensive planning group, and it's an honor to be a part of that group.
Well, let's get ready to get into this topic. So can you please tell us about this initiative?
Yeah, so as the podcast kicked off, it's the comprehensive plan, which has also been identified as Plan Appleton. So just trying to have a very specific name people can relate to. So if you've also heard the term Plan Appleton, that is our comprehensive plan update. So in 2016, the city updated the comprehensive plan last, and within the comprehensive plan, it's really a roadmap for future development and land use for the next 10 to 20 years. But as we know, every year different things shift in the economy, market demand, and so since 26, a lot has shifted within the housing market. And back in 2024, we worked on a housing development policy guide, which is really a review of what can we do internally to improve housing development processes and procedures. And through that engagement, we heard through the development community, various stakeholders, that the city doesn't have a clear vision that supports the need for additional housing within our community. And so that really led this initiative of saying, we don't have a clear vision for our stakeholders, our residents, our developers of our community. So we need to evaluate our comprehensive plan, which is really that guiding document for future development and land use throughout the community. So in 2024, we kicked off the update to the comprehensive plan with an emphasis in land use and housing, knowing that's been a concern we heard throughout the community.
What are some of the things that are bubbling to the top right now that are really, because you've already done some surveying within the community, correct?
Yes.
So what's kind of bubbling at the top?
Yes. So as we're engaging with the public, housing affordability, ensuring we're having housing that all individuals can afford within their community at any stage in life. So even if you're a young professional, maybe graduating from Lawrence University, and you're looking for, if it's an apartment to rent or a property to purchase, ensuring we have something for young professionals to be able to live in that's affordable within the community. And you can continue through the various spectrums and then even continue to ensuring we're having higher end housing for those individuals based at looking at income, median income within our community. So housing affordability was a big topic. And back to the having a housing affordability is the amount of housing supply we have in the community. So if we have very little supply available, now people are going to pay more for that house just so they can get it. And so two kind of tie hand in hand of having sufficient amount of housing so it can create affordable housing. So I would say those are the two big topics we're hearing from the housing perspective.
Yeah, I would agree. It's that the whole continuum of housing. And if I may, since I'm the oldest guy in the room, I think, or oldest person in the room, maybe for folks just a little bit of kind of historical perspective on housing. In the 50s, 60s, and 70s, we actually had affordable housing throughout the nation, and that was because there were very specific federal and state policies that focused on affordable housing. And then in the 80s, that perspective sort of fell apart, and I think that, unfortunately, a stigma has been attached to people that are struggling either to get housing or have, quote, low-income housing, and, the focus on the folks who don't have housing at all has turned into folks who have, drug or alcohol problems or mental health problems. And while those are a factor in housing, the real challenge is just affordable housing and the ability to have housing that folks on minimum wage jobs can actually afford. And that ability has decreased dramatically in the last 3 decades, basically. And so, again, I laud the city of Appleton for stepping back and taking a look at the continuum, because it does go from someone with no housing ability all the way to the high-end housing. You have to look at that whole continuum, and it takes a community to solve for that.
There's another term that you had used while you were describing the work that you're doing right now and with the comprehensive plan, and it was land use. What does that mean? What goes into land use? Is that figuring out, like, how do we get more parks? Or, I mean, there's so many things that I think of when I go into, we're going to look at land use, because, I mean, I can't think of anything next to housing. I want the land to get used in really good ways that serves a whole lot of different people in our community.
Within the comprehensive plan, there's what's called future land use map, and that's really guiding what the city would support for different types of land use. Land use, currently we have, say, about 6 to 8 categories of different land use categories. So it can be from the spectrum of residential land use, industrial land use, just general commercial, mixed use, and within that, there could be a mix of, it could include a neighborhood park. It could potentially include a church, a faith-based organization. It could potentially even include a medical facility. So within some of these categories, it groups in other very specific types of businesses or organizations that may operate. But there are some general terms that we look at and we think, okay, which uses would be compatible next to each other? Would you want to have a large industrial building that's operating 24/7 right next to a single-family residential subdivision? More than likely, it's going to cause some complaints of noise, operating 24/7. It might be just increased vehicle traffic. And so when we're evaluating this future land use map, we're looking and seeing what would be compatible next to each other based on these various categories. Something that's newer to the city is this mixed use land use category, which would allow the flexibility to someone have potentially, if it's standalone residential, or maybe a mix of residential and commercial. This category will really allow market demand to allow what that use may be. And it would allow it to pivot in the future. Right now, we have this huge boom for housing. If things change in the next 10 years, this would allow a property to alter its use to still be profitable for that private property owner.
So my question is like twofold question. So one is like you said the last plan was 2016. That means within 8 years we had to go for another plan. So do you think COVID has an effect on how things are, planned, and you had to go for this comprehensive one? Second thing, I also hear about how city normally ordinances and how city plan basically also tackle the affordability, part of people, but then it's not a very simple and straightforward answer because there are market forces which drives the affordability. So what is the role of the city in controlling or regulating the prices? Because people just assume things, but I think the answer is much wider than what it is.
Yes, so to answer your first question, COVID having impact on our comprehensive plan as a whole for a community, I would 100% agree with that. So even just thinking of the shift of employment opportunities, majority of the individuals that were in an office space were going physically into an office to work daily. Through COVID, things have transitioned, and now there's that flexibility to allow working from home potentially. So there isn't that high demand anymore for those large office spaces anymore. Another impact was just the supply chain during COVID. So thinking of the housing that was needed through that period that wasn't built because of the impact to supply chain. So looking back and saying, we were short how many housing units during the pandemic, and now how can we make up for those going forward? Moving on to your second question on what can the city do for housing affordability? So the biggest tool I would say that the city has within planning and development is our zoning regulations. So that is very specific on policy and regulations on what someone can build on a property. So based on what the code says today, they can maybe only build, let's say, 5 units on that property. But if we evaluate and we say we know there's this high demand for additional housing, let's evaluate and say, can we actually double this and add 10 units on the property? So that's where we need to evaluate what our existing zoning code says and see if there's ways we can alter it to encourage additional investment into the housing within our community. As we're working through the comprehensive plan, we asked the public, we said, where do you want to see this additional housing happening in our community? And the number one response was in our existing neighborhoods. So we then took and we analyzed what lots do we have vacant in the city and how many housing units can we fit on that? 150.
Right.
150?
Yeah.
That's it.
That's it.
That's
Wow.
that. Oh, I thought you were going to give me more than that.
No.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the current state status based on, zoning and just availability. Yeah, and I was thinking about from my, again, I'm just a dumb doctor, so I don't know economics of housing very well, but and sitting in as part of this comprehensive plan work, listening to the different voices, because they have the real estate developers are at the table as well, and I think that having that voice and that dynamic has been a real critical piece to the conversation. And then when I put my healthcare hat on, I was thinking, well, I know there's a lot of healthcare organizations in this community. They have a lot of land. Is there space there if the zoning was right for workforce housing development as a potential, or pick any other major employer? Is that a potential? And those are the kind of great conversations I think that have grown to get to that number much greater than what it is in terms of what that need piece is. Some stats that we have that on average the city has 185 building permits annually for housing units, and based on I guess it's a College North neighborhood plan, we need 300 a year. And then another assessment I think said we may need 340 annually
Yep. So the College North Neighborhood Plan was done in 2022, and we just updated the housing assessment here this year. So just from 2022 to 2024, that annual need has increased now to almost 350.
Wow.
Wow.
Yes. So then we say, okay, from a land use perspective, we can only fit 150 in on our current lot makeup in the city of Appleton today.
Right.
So then we need to evaluate where else can we put this housing within the community. So a big emphasis within this project has also been some sub-area planning efforts. As Monk just referenced, the College North Neighborhood Plan, that was a plan we recently did, and it's been very successful. And it's a smaller scale planning effort that has identified, though, exact spots for redevelopment or infill development that could provide those additional housing units. So even to Monk's point of, are there spots that we could look at that are underutilized parcels to add more housing to it? So as we're looking in these sub areas, there might be a large parking lot that is only used one day out of the year, the day after Thanksgiving,
Right.
and the rest of the year it sits empty. So how can we activate that space and add more housing within our existing footprint for the city?
Monk, you said something earlier, and I think the question is, who's at the table helping with Plan Appleton? Right? Because it sounds like there's a lot of different entities involved in it, including those who build houses and others, groups in the community, a faith-based community. Who's at the table helping to create this plan? And Lindsey, I also asked this because I know that you've done a lot of work reaching out to different residents, different groups within our communities to make sure that their voices are being heard for this planning.
Yeah, well, I can say from my lens, I have the sort of the healthcare hat and the faith-based community hat. I know that we have realtors there. We have people from the Community Foundation, United Way, or maybe I'm on like 3 or 4 different groups, and might be mixing some groups. So I'll ask Lindsey to maybe clarify the details on the rest of the group.
We have a couple of representatives that are on city council, on our plan commission, Fox Cities Chamber. We have organizations, the Among American Partnership. Those are a couple that come to mind, but it is a variety of individuals that provide a different perspective. And this is specific on our advisory group. So this advisory group has been together from the beginning, and it's really our sounding board before we go with anything public of, hey, here's this, here's what our data analysis said. Do you agree? Is this what you're really seeing in the community? And before giving this to the public, it's a great opportunity for us to really talk with them first about this before giving it out to the public. So that's one of the many engagement groups that we've had, but we have had 2 public open house events that we've asked the public just to come in, work through some various boards. We've had great feedback because it's an easy, ask the question, provide your feedback, you're in and out. And we've also had smaller focus groups. We had one specific with faith-based organizations. We've had some with just general community organizations as well. There's quite a few. We went out to the Thompson Center and did a session with our senior population. We just general community events we were at and had booths, just little pop-up. And then throughout all this too, we've had 2 surveys as well for people just to be able to provide feedback at their home. We want to be able to meet people where they're at with this engagement and not expect them to come to us, because even talking about the term land use, people are like, I don't know, what can I tell you? And so it can be very intimidating, and we want people to feel comfortable when they're talking with us, engaging with us.
I think jargons intimidate people because they don't understand, and they'd have to nod their head because they don't want to stand out too, that I don't know what he or she's saying. I had the opportunity of working with you on different methods of outreach and surveys, and they have been highly successful. The turnouts were far greater than we anticipated. So what are you hearing from people? Because I know we even spoke to children. I remember having videos where even a child is telling what he or she wants to see in next 20 years. So what are you hearing from the community? And also, I would love to get your thoughts on the multifamily housings. Is that something Appleton is also considering in the future? I would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so in our first engagement session, we had a variety of topics, and we asked the public to rate and say, what are we doing good and what are we doing bad? So we really know where do we need to prioritize our time when going through this plan. And based on, it was about 6 topics, housing was the worst. That was the lowest rating. And so we anticipated that going into this, but it just really emphasized that is having, housing of all types, all affordability levels. And so that is the number one thing we've heard through the community engagement, even from some of the children. They want to live here the rest of their life, but they want to ensure that they have a place that they can live on their own and it's affordable. And even from some of our senior population is they want to stay in the community the rest of their life, but they can't find a smaller place for them maybe to downsize in. And so having a smaller, is it a 1 or 2 bedroom unit for them to downsize in and move into so they can stay in our community. So that was the number one thing we've been hearing through community engagement is ensuring we have housing for all individuals at all income levels.
I was just going to say, I think that one of those opportunities is for the aging population that maybe have that large home and want to downsize. If we can help facilitate that happening, then that also opens up the opportunity for first-time home buyers to potentially step into the house that's been vacated. So there's not just building more houses, but then how do you also facilitate housing? But how do you facilitate those life transitions that make it affordable for everyone?
As you have been forming and conducting research or in interviews for Plan Appleton, have you ran across any myths or misunderstandings from the public about the plan or what can be done with the plan?
I would say just taking a step back and thinking this isn't something that's going to happen tomorrow, but this is a long-term vision document. So just because we're looking at the site and today it's a strip mall, think beyond what's there today. You get caught up in your daily route, going to and from work, going home, going to the grocery store, and you're just so used to that same, development or land use that's occurring. And it's thinking outside of the box and thinking, could we alter this to actually meet the demands and the needs of our community? So often when I ask the question, what is the vision? What do you think of Appleton for the next 20 years? People aren't often asked that question, so it takes them a minute to think about that. And even driving home from work makes them think about, how could we pivot? How could we change something here to really meet the needs of our community? And so that's been something on how to phrase it to the public to have them think a little bit outside the box besides what's there today or what was there the last 20 years.
Sorry, I was just also reflecting on one of the sessions where they had people put dots on a map where they thought the opportunities were for housing. And it was amazing if you went, sort of north of the Fox River, if that's the right direction, everything it was availability or necessary there. There were no dots basically placed in the area south of the Fox River. That's sort of where people's perception was at in terms of maybe need or potential. And that was just a sort of an interesting take on what people's perception was. And so then you have to take that into account and help them understand, no, there actually are opportunities in multiple areas.
So, Lindsey, can you share a narrative that will help listeners understand actually what the plan is all about and why their input is so critical at this time?
Yes. So the comprehensive plan really gets to a variety of topics throughout the community, and it's really that roadmap for the future development and land use for the next 10 to 20 years. But the key thing is we want to know what you want to see within the community for the next 10 to 20 years. So your engagement is critical to ensure we're preparing a plan that aligns with the overall community's vision. We aren't coming into this saying, well, this is what Lindsey wants for the city of Appleton. We want to hear from you to ensure we're aligning with your visions and values throughout the community. And we understand someone may have something very specific on one site And we have to take the context of the whole community when looking at and receiving input. A couple other things as well is I mentioned we're doing some sub-area planning with the project as well. This is really a great document for us to utilize to showcase how can we change our mindset of what could happen there today, what could be redeveloped there, what could be added to that space. And it also helps us work with a developer or with a property owner and saying, hey, the city would support this type of project here. They will then feel more comfortable coming into our community and actually making that project a reality. One big site that we're talking about is the Northland Mall. You look at the Northland Mall and, it's like it was activated before, and now slowly businesses have come and go, and it's not as active as maybe it was 20 years ago. So how can we activate that space again and make it a destination that the neighborhood wants to go to? It's a place we can walk and enjoy dinner for the evening. So those are the key takeaways I'd say from the community is ensure you're providing input to guide the future vision, development, and land use of the community, and diving into those smaller areas as well to provide more specific recommendations.
No, I agree, because during one of our open office hours, there was a gentleman who came, and he was a young guy, and he said, I was in San Diego for some time, and he said, I can go within 2 miles to a yoga studio and then enjoy my coffee, but here if I have to do that, I have to go 5 miles. I don't think I can walk till 5 miles. So I think that perception is changing. What they're seeing in the bigger cities, they want that livability, walkability index. Like, I don't want to drive my car. I want to take my bike, enjoy my yoga, and then go for a coffee. I think that perception is changing, and I think that's why it's so very important to give your feedback to just see what they visualize for next 2 decades.
We had a fun session at the city celebration up at Memorial Park, actually, and we were asking the kids of what would you like to see in your neighborhood? What don't you have that you'd love to have? And the context I typically prompted with those kids were, if you're going to your park, what else would you like on your walk to or from the park? And a lot of feedback on an ice cream shop, or, is there a little bakery to get some treats in the morning for breakfast? And so some of those little neighborhood commercial businesses that could be supported.
My answer would be tacos.
Well, either way, as from the doctor perspective, if you have to walk to get it, that's good. Or ride your bike.
I like that. Monk, do you have a story that you would like to share with the Appleton Engage listeners that might help them understand the importance of the Appleton plan?
Yes, for sure. And I will take it maybe down to what I feel is like the base need, the most basic human need in this, and looking at it from a housing and shelter perspective and what occurs in the winter months in the Fox Cities, and the need, for some type of even just warming shelter housing needs during the winter. And one of the groups that I work with is Churches United in Care, and they've made a major focus of creating that space. And because unfortunately there's a need for that. And again, some of that need is connected into this continuum to what is available or not for people who are in pillars that are maybe trying to move up out of pillars, but there's no place for them to go. And, the people that might open up space for the people who are in pillars need a place to go. So there's like this connectivity that goes all the way back down to warming shelter needs that, is going to be an unfortunate need for the future, that I think that's something that we need to solve for as a community.
Are there any upcoming initiatives, events, or engagement opportunities?
Yeah, so as we're continuing to make progress on the plan, we are nearing actually a draft plan. So we are targeting towards the end of August, early September on having another public open house. So look for the details on our website, www.planappleton.org. So we will have an in-person opportunity for engagement, and we will have an online survey again. So if you can't attend the open house, there'll be another opportunity for you to review. So there are actual draft documents for you to look at and react to. So sometimes it's easier for people to actually look at what those recommendations are and provide feedback rather than just asking an open-ended question. So I hope to see the public engage, provide their feedback, as this is their plan. This is their plan for the next 10 to 20 years.
And I'll tell you, these sessions are very fun. It's not boring as you think, like you'll be talking all about land and zoning. We will make it easy for you to understand and digest information. So it's all about how you want to see your community, whether a small shop or a yoga studio. We just want to know exactly how you vision, right? Because it's such a fun group to work with. So just let us know how we can help you plan Appleton. All right. So are there any upcoming initiatives, like, can you go through the dates, how can people learn more about, like, other than just the website? Should they check out the social media more often?
Yeah, so we will have on our city Facebook page the upcoming open house. So that is the best way to find out about the exact date of our upcoming open house. There is another opportunity on our website that you can actually fill out a form, and I will reach out to you directly when we do have that specific date. So if you're wanting just to fill out a form and walk away and be prompted with future engagement, that's another opportunity. So those are the two. So keep an eye out for that upcoming meeting, end of August, early September.
Is there anything that the community can do to be helpful?
When looking at this draft plan, remember this is a plan for the next 10 to 20 years for the community. So I understand today you're maybe in a certain stage of life, but I want you to think 10 to 20 years in the future. Don't just think about where you are today. If it may not be yourself that you think may be here in 10 to 20 years, think about maybe it's your kids or your friends or your neighbors and what they need for the next 10 to 20 years to keep the community that we have today. So that's what I as you're looking at things, think of the next 10 to 20 years, even talking about housing choice. Where you are today, do you think you're going to want to live in that same house in 10 to 20 years? Are you going to be looking to downsize? Are you looking to maybe have kids in that time period? You're going to want a larger yard. Are you going to want to be in proximity to some of the schools, location to the parks? So think of all that, and I would add on the affordability piece. Ensure, though, it's a place that you can afford of where you want to live.
So who can people contact if they would like to learn more other than the website? They might have some questions too. So is there a way, like an FAQ section or something? So how can people learn more?
They can reach out to me directly. So I would say, feel free. You can find my contact information on the city website. There is a question form on our website too. So if you have a specific question, you can feel free to reach out there. But yeah, I'm always open, love to have a conversation with someone, love to hear from you and just talk through questions or just feedback you may have.
So what's the deadline? Like, how long can they come and ask questions? Is there a timeline for that?
Yeah, so your question may be tied to something we've already heard throughout the community engagement session. So there might be something we're already drafting within the plan, right. But we are targeting end of August, early September to have that draft plan. So, I encourage you, if you can reach out prior to that and I can address your question or comment and tell you if it's something we've already considered and may be in the draft, or if you are actually even reviewing that draft plan and there's something you feel is missing, is needed, that's where we want to hear from you. So we will have it open for about a 3-week timeline. So after we publish it and it's out there for review, there'll be about a 3-week time period for everyone to review, provide additional feedback. And so the target adoption date for this plan is going to be end of November. So we will, fingers crossed, wrap everything up by the end of the year, but there is still a significant amount of time still to provide input and review the draft plan.
Are there any additional things you would like to share with the Appleton Engaged listener that maybe we didn't ask a question about today?
Well, I will maybe even jump ahead to the shout-out section in the sense of answering your question, because the Plan Appleton is a huge part of the approach to the advancement of the city and the advancement of the goals of affordable housing. But there are multiple organizations and individuals in the community working on this issue, and I think that it's important for folks to understand there's opportunities to be engaged with, again, I mentioned Churches United in Care, that I would say are, again, they're focused on those emergency shelter needs and working closely with Pillars And with the coordinated entry program through the Fox Cities, through City of Appleton's work, and these are all possible plugs for future podcast guests as well. But so there's that group, there's the Fox Cities Housing Coalition that's sort of in that space of, emergency shelter needs, but then also the next level of helping move people into, affordable housing. And then the growing Fox Cities Housing Alliance that's also, it's a regional, but there's a great overlap with the work that's being done with Appleton planning work. And I think there's just that opportunity to be engaged in making Appleton, an even better place to be. I mean, that's, quite honestly, 40 years ago when I came here from Iowa, I was like, this is an awesome place. And there's, nothing but opportunity for people to make it an even better place to be.
So you already sent a bit of a shout out. That was my next question, but thank you for doing that, Mang. And, do you want to send some shout out?
My shout out is going to be all of the individuals that has engaged so far in community outreach. So, like I said, I know it's a time commitment, and I appreciate all the individuals taking time out of their day to provide us input. So it is a crucial piece to this plan. And so from advisory group to meeting almost monthly, bi-monthly, their time commitment. We have focus groups for us sub areas that we're engaging with property owners on, smaller listening sessions. So I appreciate everyone that has taken time out of their day to provide input, even from taking the survey in your pajamas at your couch at home. It is valued. So please keep that in mind. We take your input and we are implementing that into the plan. So don't think your survey's sitting on a shelf. We never even looked at it. We're taking all of the engagement. We're putting that into the plan. So we've had great success on implementing recommendations from the 2016 plan, and we're going to continue doing that going forward. So just keep that in mind. We do value your input, and I appreciate everyone's involvement. We have about 75,000 people in this community. We have way more with stakeholders, business owners. We want you all to engage in this. So you didn't miss your opportunity. There's still a chance. So please continue engaging throughout the process.
Okay. Well, at this time, we just want to take a moment. Lindsey, Monk, we want to say thank you. Appleton Engaged listeners, thank you for spending time with us. Thank you for giving us your minds and ears. Thank you for caring about another amazing initiative going on in our city, trying to make it a better place. There's so much work going on behind the scenes for this comprehensive plan. And things got to be better when there's a plan in place and it's not just a guess in the dark on how to make things better. And the fact that there is the opportunity for community to give input on this plan is just a fantastic thing. Appleton Engaged listeners, you already know what we're always trying to do. We are trying to become the #1 podcast in Northeast Wisconsin, and we can't do that without your help. So what can you do? Well, right now, if you are listening and you're thinking, oh man, I wish they would have asked this question, you can let us know. If you're thinking, oh, I would really like to hear from this individual or this group or this organization, guess what? Let us know. Or you might be listening and saying, I should be a guest on Appleton Engage. Well, guess what? Let us know. And you can let us know at belonging@appletonwi.gov. Once again, that is belonging@appletonwi.gov. Email us. Let us know you would like to be on the Appleton Engage podcast, and we will see about trying to make that happen. Also, we think we have an amazing resource here. An informed community is a community that feels like you belong. And we do that through this podcast by bringing great guests and great subject matter so you can be connected. But we want to get in front of more eyes and ears, and the only way we can do that is called analytics. So what we need is, while you're listening to this episode right now, take a moment, hit the subscribe button if you see one. If you see stars, give us 5. And if you've got a few more moments and there's a review opportunity, go ahead and write that review. These are all things that increase our analytics And the better our analytics, the more people get to learn about this amazing resource of our community known as the Appleton Engaged podcast.
Thanks, both of you, for sharing your perspective on Plan Appleton. Remember, this plan is not just being written for you, it's being written with you. So if you want to learn more, go to our Appleton website at appletonwi.gov, or just simply go to www.planappleton.org, and please follow us on social media so that you can get the latest news on how we are engaging with public, and we would love to hear from you. Until next time, stay thoughtful, stay curious, and stay engaged.